Guys, we'll just start in another 1 or 2 minutes. Just waiting for a few more people to join. Yes, can we start now?
Sure.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another session by Geeks for Geeks HMRITM. I am Samviti Bhardwaj, your host for today. And today we are having a web development workshop on Introduction to JavaScript by Yash Sharma, who is the Vice Chairperson of GFG HMRITM. And before Yash starts with the session, I would like to tell you all that if you have any questions, please put your questions in the chat box and we will take your questions side by side. And now I would like to invite Yash to begin with the workshop.
Hello, everyone. So I hope you are safe and doing good. So our motive of this workshop is to introduce you to JavaScript. Okay. So the first thing which come up with key JavaScript, it is basically
recording in progress.
So we know what is web development. Actually, we have done previously 2 workshops, actually 3 workshops, which includes introduction to the web development and then HTML and CSS. Okay, so in introduction to web development, we have seen that for front end we need HTML, CSS plus JavaScript. HTML is basically the mockup, CSS is basically the styling, and JavaScript is basically the brain or the logic of the web page or website. Okay, so today we are starting with the JavaScript introduction. It is just the introduction, because JavaScript is wide. It's a programming language, and every programming language we know that we can't cover that whole language in just one session. So basically it's just the introduction to JavaScript, and at the end of it we will have a project. We will do a project also. Okay, so so what we will be covering today. So we'll be covering what is JavaScript. Second, adding JavaScript to HTML. Okay, obviously, like we have created a JavaScript file, but how to add it to HTML? And can we just not create a JavaScript file, and can we embed scripting, basically JavaScript, in our HTML only? So that also we will see. Okay, so then third thing is our JavaScript syntax. Every language has their syntax. The first program which we create is a hello world program, so that we will see how to declare variables and what are data types that are there in JavaScript. Okay, so all those things we will see. It will be going to very interesting session. Fourth thing is functions and events. Obviously, you must, if you have done C++ in your second year or first year, or in your 11th and 12th, if you know any programming language, you must be knowing about functions and events. And if you don't have any prior knowledge of programming, then no issues. We are just starting with the JavaScript scripting language or a programming language in its own. So yeah, we will learn it from scratch. Then we have functions and events. Events are something. What are events? This is an event workshop. This event is happening. So similarly, in web development, we have such events. When you click on anything, that's an event. When you right click on the website, that's an event. When you scroll down, that's an event. So these are the events, and how we control the website behavior according to those events. So that's what we will cover into functions and events. DOM manipulation. Okay, DOM manipulation is something very vast and very interesting thing about this. Like for front end, why we are learning JavaScript so that we can do DOM manipulation. Okay, React.js DOM manipulation, AngularJS DOM manipulation, all these frameworks and popular libraries. So what they help? They help us in doing DOM manipulation more effectively and in a faster way. Then at sixth, we will create a basic JS project that we will see what that project is. And seventh, at last, we will have a Q&A session. Okay, so I think we are going to start. So shall we begin?
Yes, we can start.
Okay, great. So what is JavaScript? The question again, what is JavaScript? So JavaScript is a client-side programming language. What is a client-side programming language? When we talk in perspective of web development, there are two sides, which are client side and server side. Server side is basically which is visible to us, the developers, which is visible to us, and we can handle the things which are going on the server side. Backend programming, it is known as backend programming. Server side, backend programming. Client side, front end. Right? So client side, in client side what we do, HTML, CSS. But HTML, CSS are not programming languages. HTML is a markup language. CSS is a styling. Okay, so in client side programming we have JavaScript, right? So JavaScript is a client side programming language. So, and also it is an interpreted language. What is an interpreted language? There are two types of language. One are compiler based and one are interpreted based. One are just interpreted and one are compiled. C++ is a compiler based language. Basically it get compiled, the whole code get compiled in one go. Where interpreted languages, the first line of that, if I have created anything, if I have written any code, any line in my program, so the interpreter is the thing which reads the code line by line and then execute it. Read the code line by line, execute it. Second line, execute it. Third line reading, then execute it. It's like this. Whereas in compiler it scans the whole document, then compiles them. But in JavaScript, it is an interpreted language. That means the code is executed line by line. Okay, then third point here is used to add logic to the web page. Why we use JavaScript? To add logic. With HTML, CSS, our site looks very sassy. By adding CSS, it looks very colorful, innovative, and all the things we can do with CSS. And HTML provides us the structure. But what is the thing? Like if I look good, if I have a body, if I look good, but I don't have any brain, will I be able to function anything? No. So to add logic, to add functionality to the web page, so for that we use JavaScript. JavaScript provides us the logic, right? So the fourth point is made by Netscape as LiveScript. Okay, what is Netscape? Netscape is basically a company which created almost everything which you can say. They created the first web, like Netscape and IBM came at the same time in 1980s or 70s. Means it is a very old very old company, you can say, a big company, a big tycoon like Google and Microsoft. They were so old. IBM, Netscape were the leading technological manufacturers, you can say, or software company, as in you can say, lately. So they created the first browser. The world first browser was created by Netscape. So yeah, obviously that was so obvious that they created JavaScript, because they are related to web development. They created and they named it as LiveScript, right? JavaScript is not the name which this language got earlier. It was known as LiveScript because everything is happening at live, dynamically, by using this scripting language. Okay, so yeah, again the fifth point, residing with the fourth point, provide dynamic content to HTML. HTML is static, CSS is static, but by applying JavaScript we can make it dynamic, right? So I hope I made what is JavaScript and how we will going to use it. Okay, there is a big question which always be raised. Why JavaScript? Like, it was named LiveScript, then why it was changed to JavaScript? And is Java or JavaScript related? What is the difference between them? So first of all, Java and JavaScripts are not related anyhow, right? If someone say, Okay, this is a pictorial graphification. If Java, and if you are high, then you will call it JavaScript, else it is not Java. Okay, JavaScript is an language of its own. It is completely different from Java. Java is basically a compiler based language. JavaScript, as I told you, is a interpreted language, right? So they're completely different, and they have different applications. They have similar applications, but they're the way of doing things, and it is very loosely packed. Our JavaScript is very not stricted. Java is very stricted. It has two-way bindings and all that thing. Okay, so Java is completely different from JavaScript, right? So yeah, for God's sakes, JavaScript is not related to Java, and it is completely different. It has everything different, right? From the syntax to everything. Okay. So adding JS to HTML. How do we add JS to HTML? Okay. So we have created a I have a JavaScript program. I have written a JavaScript program, but how should I embed it to my HTML5, or how should I embed it to my website, basically, right? You create a website. The first thing which you create is HTML file, right? You have your HTML file. Then what we do, either if we have an external JavaScript file, by that I mean there is a file which has the JavaScript code, but it is, my HTML file is one file, my second file is JavaScript file, which is different from the HTML file, right? So to integrate, you can say, or embed that JavaScript file in my HTML, I use external linking. If my JavaScript code is in a different file, so we use external linking for that. In head, you know the syntax of HTML, right? First comes the HTML tag, then the head tag. So in the head tag, what we do, we have title and all those things. So there we added this script tag. We add its src. You must have seen in CSS workshop or something like that. Src is basically the source of that file. Path of the file is written here, /test.js. Okay, this was the file which I created during the testing of this workshop, right? Type text/JavaScript. The type of the file is JavaScript, and then closing the script tag. Okay, so that's how we embed JavaScript in our HTML if our JavaScript file is external. And if we want to, like, I don't want to create any separate file for JavaScript. My just JavaScript code is of 2 line, 3 line, or 10 lines. Then I don't want a new JavaScript file and then to embed it in here. So we can do a really simple thing in body or in head. Even in body or in head, we can write this script and this closing script tag, and between that we can write our JavaScript code. Okay, whatever the JavaScript code is, we can write it in here. I hope that must be clear. Okay, so this is the code. .js is the extension used for JavaScript files. What is the extension for HTML files? .html. What is the extension for CSS files? .css, right? What is the extension for JavaScript? JavaScript is .js. Okay, this if you are into the JavaScript development, you will see this .js extension every there and now. In every GitHub repository you go, obviously if you are not using Python or not using Java even, so .js is the extension used for JavaScript files. Okay, so then you will see this .js every there and now. Okay, so now we are heading over to JavaScript syntax. We know how to add that JavaScript into our file, but what to write in that file? How should we start with this JavaScript programming language? Every language which we have learned, whether we have learned C, C++, we started with something, right? So yeah, so this is the JavaScript syntax. As I told you, JavaScript syntax is very minimal and loose. By that I mean it is, you can say, similar to Python, but yeah, means there's one thing which is similar, which I can say, that both are interpreted language. And second thing, it like whether you put a semicolon or don't put a semicolon, it doesn't matter to JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript adds it by own and doesn't means it takes the end of line by itself. There is no need to add semicolon in JavaScript. Okay, and if you will add, then no issues with that. That will help that will help the interpreter only. Okay, so this is how we add something here. In between the script tag, we write our function or our code. Okay, so JS code comes between these opening tags, opening and closing scripting tags, right? Now, what is the thing? Data types in JS. Before I'll show you this, I want to show you one concept. So I'll head over to my code editor. If you can see the screen. Hello, Samviti, this screen is visible, right?
Yes, your code screen is visible.
Okay. So this is the concept.html which I created before coming in this workshop. So this is basically what I added. Now we will see how to add script. Okay. So this is my script tag, right? So I'll create something here. Okay. Let's see console.log. Okay, I'll tell you what is this. Hello world. Sorry. See, I haven't put any semicolon. Let's see whether it will run or not. This is my HTML file and this is internal linking, right? I can put this script in body, either in body or in the head. It doesn't matter. Okay. I can do it like this or I can do it like the previous way. Okay. This is the recommended way because head is, you can see head is already occupied with all those things, and when we use some external libraries, so then it will be more full. So it's better to keep our scripts at the end of our body. We'll write the HTML over here, right? And our script usually comes at the end of means near the closing tag of the body, but inside the body. Remember that. Okay. So this is console.log. What is console.log? If you are a C++ programmer, this is console.log. Okay. You know what is this? Cout. Cout is to show the output on the terminal or the console, right? And if you are a C user, then this int f. And if you are a Java coder, then system.out.println this. Java, we print something using this. Okay, another difference, another syntax difference between Java and JavaScript. And in JavaScript, we print anything on the terminal or the console. In JavaScript, we don't have any terminal. Well, obviously, what is a terminal? Basically, it's a console only where you can see the scripting and the output of the programming language. Okay, console.log hello world I have done. I'll run this file. Okay, so it is in workshop concepts. This is my concept.html. I'll run it. It will be a blank file because I haven't written anything in the HTML part of it, right? See, it's a blank file. Now to see whether my hello world is printed or not, I'll come here. I'll go to console. See, you must be able to see this hello world. This is the JavaScript console. When you right click on it, inspect, you will see the here element. Then you will click on console. Okay, so here you can see hello world, right? So this is the JavaScript console, and see, I haven't put any semicolon or something, but it's working very fine. Now continuing with our presentation. Okay, so after we learn anything about printing, now next thing which we learn in any programming language is about this thing. What are the data types in JS? What are data types basically? Data types are reserved keywords. These are reserved keywords which comes along with every programming language, by which we declare whether a type of what kind of data we can manipulate or we can use in a language. Data types. Data, we all know, is a raw form raw form of information. You can say data is something, is basically the raw form of information. Data types, what type of data we can manipulate in a language. So these are the types of data which we can handle in JavaScript. String, obviously, you know, character, paragraph, and every that thing that comes under string. Okay. Number in C++, you must have seen int and float. In Java, you must have seen int and float. But in JavaScript, what we have is we just have number. If we create var this, then it is of number data type, right? Whether it is decimal placed, whether it is anything. If we create a var variable, basically variable like this of number type, we need not kindly mute yourself, everyone. Say some. Hmm. Okay, so we'll continue. Number data type in which we put the basically int also, float also, double also, long also, whatever you want to put in here. Okay, everything comes under the number. Make that cool, right? No need to create int, no need to create anything like that. Okay, and you will see like it is, that's why it is a long and minimal syntax, right? You need not to define int, float, double, long, short, static, or anything, right? It's just these types of there: string for characters and string type, number for double, float, int, whatever, boolean. Okay, boolean was there, true or false, these two value only. Null null is something new which you must not see in most of the programming language. Null and undefined. Null basically have a null value, undefined has a undefined value. When you create any variable and if you assign it an undefined value, undefined, and in starting everything is undefined. If I say variable a and I put semicolon now, and if I console.log a, what will be the value of it? It will show undefined. Okay, I'll show it to you when we'll go back to the VS Code or our code editor. I'll show you like how this undefined will be there. Okay, then another is symbol type, symbol something. Okay, seventh, the most important, you can say the most important, which is objects. Objects are key value pairs. We will see that in upcoming slides also. Okay, so these are key value pair based data types in JS. Variables in JS. Now, how we declare variable? Okay, how we declare variable in JavaScript? There are just three ways, and it is made very simple to us. We don't need to write int, float, anything. Okay, JavaScript do it for us. Like we can use var, let, const. Variable, var is for variable type, like whose value can be changed. Let is also for variable type whose value can be changed. But the difference between var and let is this, that let is when I assign a variable using let, it is block scoped. What is block scoped? When I have a block of code, means this is a function, okay, or my whole document is there, right? If I in whole document, if I write let b is equals to something, okay, that is completely block scope, means it come in the whole program. But if I have a function, and in that if I write let b is equals to something, I can't access that b out of the function, right? Because it is just restricted to that block. Whereas if I write var a is equals to some value, var a is a globally scoped variable. When we assign any variable using var, it becomes globally scoped. Okay, then we have const. What is const? Const is also block scoped, but it can't get a value. I can change the value of a if I assign a value var a. Okay, I'll just write it. If I write it here as where a is equals to 10, right? I have defined this. This is of number type, number data type, okay, and I have created using where. And if further in the program I want to change the value of a to 100, okay, and then I'll console.log a, or using where, if I say console.log a, here the value here the value of a will be printed as 10, and here the value of a will be printed as 100. That means I can change the value of a anywhere in the program. But what if I remove this, and what will the value of a now? The value of a will be 100 because I have changed the value of a. Okay, but in the case of const, if I do the same thing with const, okay, now I defined it console.log a, then what will happen? The value of a will be 10. But can I do this? What will be here? Either I'll get an error that const can't be changed, the const value can't be changed, or the value of a will be printed as 10. Anytime you do it, you make it a is equals to 150, anything you make it, the value of a will remain constant. And what it symbolizes, okay, the const value. So I hope I made this difference between var, lat, and const clear. Okay, so that's how we declare variables in JavaScript. Variables, I think you.
Yash,
Yes.
let's wait for a minute and see if people are there actively listening to us. Please put any questions if you have, and if not, put a yes or no. Like, are things clear till now? What Yash have explained about JavaScript, variables, and everything. If yes, put a yes, and if no, put questions. So, please do so. Okay, I can see some questions, some responses. I guess you can continue, Yash.
Okay, great. Okay, so what is the flow of JavaScript? We know, we know basic now. I can print something using JavaScript. Okay, that I know. I can create a variable and show its value on the screen. That I know. Okay, and how to embed JavaScript in HTML. That also I know. Okay, so now what is the thing is, whether I know like what goes behind JavaScript and how JavaScript works with HTML and what all happens with it. So let's suppose I have a website. This is my website. Okay, on my website I have this button which I'll click. Okay, what will happen after that? When I click that button, something should happen. Okay, something should happen. A click button event will happen. What I have done, I have as I told you earlier, what are events? Event is something, whether you do anything on any site, it will, whether the site is loaded, that is an event. Whether the site you are seeing and you are just scrolling is an event. When you are clicking on any button, on any text, or anywhere on the site, that everything is an event and that can be tracked, right? So when I click on a button, this button event occurs. Okay, like click event occurs. Click button, this name event occurs. What will happen if I have put any JavaScript code using that? Means when this event happens, when button pressed, please do this code. When this button will be pressed, please execute this JavaScript code. What this JavaScript code will do? It will do something which I have written here, whether to change the color of the button, whether to display any list, whether to show or hide something, right? When I click on this button, okay, let's suppose this is a download button. Okay, this is click me button is a download button. When this download button is clicked, the download event will be run. Okay, and what is in there, that download button? In that download button will show will download the software or the file on my PC. Okay, and it will redirect the site to a new page, right? Which is a thanks for downloading and anything which we want to redirect. The page appearance is updated and modified in some way as a result. Okay, so that's how JavaScript works. You do anything on the HTML, it will create an event is sent to the JavaScript code if it is created, and third, we will see the responses to it. Fourth, sorry. Okay, so that's how JavaScript works. Now, how to interact with the user? As we know, in programming language, it's not just about printing, it's also about taking input from the user, right? So how can we take input, or how can we basically interact with the user? How we interact with the user using JavaScript? Okay, so we have three functions by which we can interact with the user. You have seen that I have printed console. By using console log, we can print only in console, right? But using these three, alert, confirm, and prompt, we can show that in the whole web page. It will appear upside if you will use Chrome. It will appear upside if you use Internet Explorer. The whole dialog box will appear. Okay, so these are three functions which we use. Okay, console.log was a function which help us to print anything on the console. Okay, alert is something. Alert, if I do alert hello world, a prompt or basically a window will appear in top of the browser. Okay, confirm uses confirm asks the user to confirm something. Okay, like when something is not saved, something is not saved and you cross that tab, you must have seen a prompt appears key the content on this page are not saved, whether you want to leave this page, and whether when you click on any zoom link it redirect to your browser, then it will show key do you want to leave this site and do you want to open zoom meetings, right? So that is where the confirm comes. Prompt is something like ask the user to enter some text. Obviously, to enter some text, guys, that's how we take input in JavaScript using prompt also, and there are many other ways like that we will see. Read line sync and all those things are there, but for now we will do it with prompt. So these are the three things, and we have seen data types also. Okay, I have missed this one slide, sorry for that. This is very important slide and I shouldn't be missing it, but thank God I revisited it. What is JavaScript objects? As you have seen here, there are this 6 type of primitive data types, and this is the object data type. Object is the data type in JavaScript which is used to store a combination of data in simple key value pair. This is my object variable type. By using var, I created this object type user object, right? I named this object as user object. In that, what I have the name this, age this, year this, department this, right? So this is what I have in an user object. Okay, so it is a key. The name is the key. Its value is Yash. The age is key. Its value is 20. Okay, so this is the key value pair. Okay, this is done. User interaction done. Okay, JS doesn't need anyone. Okay, JS doesn't need anyone. By that I mean you need not, you just have to have a browser and an internet connection to run JavaScript, or not even an internet connection, by the way. You just need to have a browser where you can run your sites. That's all JS want. It doesn't need any IDE, it doesn't need anything. But to run anything like on JS, this is my Chrome. Okay, I'll just open, this is my Google search only, but still I'll open google.com. Okay, this is my just what is there in this? Nothing. I'll click on inspect. I'll go on console. So these are some things. Okay, where's my page? This is the project. Okay, this was our file, no, which we created here, like which we have done a hello world, right? So here, let's see whether I can remove it from here. I'll remove this script. This is just my blank HTML file. It has nothing in it, no scripting, nothing. Whether I'll be able to write something. If I'll refresh this page and then I go to inspect. Now on console, you will be able to see that hello world is obviously gone because I've removed it. So can I write here, like if I write here JavaScript, will it run? If I write here hello world, do you think it should run or not? Without any semicolon. Hello world. As you can see, hello world is printed, but this undefined is also printed. Okay, let's see the undefined also. Variable a I created and console.log a. Okay, I haven't assigned any value to a, so by default in JavaScript the value which is assigned to any variable is undefined. Okay, remember that undefined means we haven't defined any value to it. Okay, and this undefined is coming like it comes after every output that we can see. But if you'll refresh this page now, everything which you have written here as a JavaScript will go away. So that's why we need to create a JavaScript file with our HTML so that it doesn't go away. Like this is a page, okay, this is a page which I created. Actually it doesn't have anything, but any web page, on whether you go to google.com, or this is my Zoom prompt which is currently going on, right? So if I'll right click here, I'll click on inspect. On any browser you go, on any web page you go, you will see this element console sources everywhere. Here this is the JavaScript which is Zoom was using, but I don't care about it. Okay, so this I'll use, it will go on like they are reading cookies and all those things. So I'll print here console.log a. Oh sorry, not a, because I haven't defined it. Hello world. Okay, so whether see hello world is working here only. It will work on every website, everything, because this is what how the console is not part of the website. The console is part of your web browser. If you have a web browser and if you right click on it and you will see and go to console, you can write there JavaScript. Okay, console is made for the JavaScript, elements is made for the HTML, CSS, this styles and all those things were made for CSS. Elements are made for the whole source, HTML source, right? Now this was the thing. Now I'll switch back to my script. I want my script back because I want to interact with the user. Okay, so how should we interact? We should use alert. Let's do hello world only. Okay, let's see what is the difference between console and alert. Okay, without any semicolon. Okay, in next line, okay, let's use prompt. In prompt, enter your name. Then in next, confirm. Are you your developer? Okay, so these three things I have declared here. Let's see how this thing goes. Okay, I refresh the page. It says hello world. Okay, thank you. Then again it says enter your name. Okay, I'll enter my name. Okay, are you a developer? Okay, so that's how we do using prompt, and that's how we interact. But that data is not stored because I haven't stored it. But if I say name is equals to prompt and then console dot, or I can do it as alert or use confirm only. Confirm, is your name is your name We will pass this name variable, add a question mark to the space. Okay, let's see whether it works. Remove the semicolon if you want. Refresh it. It says hello world. Enter your name. I will enter my name. Okay. Is your name Yash? Okay. Are you a developer? Okay. So you see how we store variables. This is the variable I created. It is of string type. In JavaScript, we need not to use int or anything. Just use var, let, or const. Where okay, roll number I have written, but JavaScript doesn't care what name you write, because it is everything is defined at runtime. No, it is an interpreted language. So whether in roll number whether I make this roll number as string type, Yash Sharma. In roll number I have written a string, but obviously it will take it as a string. It doesn't matter what is the name of your variable. It doesn't matter whether you use var or let. It matters what the value is. If the value is string, JavaScript will identify it and take it as a string. If I'll write from roll number as 12, it will take the roll number as in number type, basically. Okay. So that was all thing. And yeah, obviously objects. How we can forget objects? Okay. So obj is equals to this, right? Using in key value pairs, we don't use is equals to, we use colon, right? My name is Yash. And then we separate the values in object using comma, not using semicolon, and we have to put a comma. Remember this thing, we have to put a comma after every key value pair. This will be of this. And yeah, if it will be the last key value pair of in your object, then no need to put this comma. But if it is not, then you put the comma and write anything, and and if this is the last, don't put the comma, or even if you put the comma, then no worries about it. Okay, so that's how we create objects. I have shown you prompt and everything. So is there any question?
I've asked the people to put the questions in the chat box. So guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Or you can unmute yourself or ask. No issues with that too. No worries with that. But do it when we ask.
Please
okay.
Actively participate.
Okay. Now we are heading towards the end game, which is functions in JS. What is a function? Anything which I do. Like JavaScript was all about providing logics, all about adding functionality. To add functionality, to add logic, we use functions. We create functions. Function is a set of code, whether you define a function or not, whether you don't define any function in JavaScript. If you write the code, that is also considered as a JavaScript function. Why it is considered as JavaScript function? Because anything which you write, function includes the blocks of code. Okay, and if you don't create a function, just write anything in the JavaScript file, that will also considered as a block of code. Okay, so functions, what are functions? These are the blocks of code. Okay, we create functions so that our code doesn't become dizzy, and we have a separate functionality. We can call any other function. We can reuse our function. So for that we can reuse our code, we can reuse our variables, we can reuse, and we can call it anytime to increase the usability, to make the code efficient, and to reuse the code which we have written. So for that we use functions. In JavaScript, let us define the functions using function keyword. Okay, so how we create functions in JavaScript? We write this function keyword, then name of that function, then this parenthesis. We all know, like if you have done any programming language, then we close this parenthesis, then we open our curly braces, and inside it we write the code of our function. Okay, So next is JavaScript events. As I told you, events is anything you do and on site. You go there, you see. These are the common events. On load, if the site is just loaded, that is also an event. You can do anything with that on load. Like on, I want my website. When my website loads, the color of my website turns something else. Whether I have defined anything in my HTML, but when it loads, it should change to anything else. Okay. If I want to do any functionality with that event. Okay. On focus, on blur, on change. Okay. On submit. Well, when I click a form submit button, something should happen. Okay. Some JavaScript code should run, which will give me something. So JavaScript events are basically, event is basically in JavaScript is this thing. Whether you click or do anything on the site, some event happens and we can respond to those events using our JavaScript code. Okay. So JavaScript can be made to respond to user events. Common events are onload or unload, on unload, when a page is first visited or left, on focus or on blur, on change, events pertaining to form elements. Okay. On submit, when a form is submitted. On focus, what happens when you click on an input text area, no? So that is considered as a on focus event. On submit, when you submit anything, whether a form or any inquiry or anything, right? So on mouse over or mouse out, mouse over or mouse out. So these are also, there are tons of events which you can know about. Okay. Right click, this right click is an event. This left click is an event. Okay. So left click has led us to a new topic, which is DOM manipulation. Any doubt till here? Okay.
Guys, please put a yes
Sanskar,
or no.
just a second. Give me a second, please.
Guys, if you have any doubt, please put a yes. If you don't, then please put a no. That way we will know that you guys are actively listening.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Okay. So the question is, explain the method to practice the JS in browser console. Okay. So how we do in browser, right? How we can execute JavaScript in browser. Okay, let's explain that. Okay, you open any tab. You open any tab in your Google Chrome or in your any browser. Then you go and right click on that site or web browser. You click you right click, then click on inspect. You must be seeing, when you will right click, you will see this dialog box. Then you click on inspect. It, in your case, this might come as like this sideways, right? So here it will appear. So you just drag it like this. You expand this side like this, and then you then you click on console. You must be seeing elements here. Then you will see console here. Okay. So this is where you can you can write your code. Okay. But whenever this page, like I have written my whole code, I have written everything here, like a 500 lines of JavaScript code, which is like a complete web application. Okay. If I have written this, I'll enter hello world, I have done. Okay. But when I refresh it, my whole JavaScript code will be gone. So doing it here, like we just do here, for debugging purposes, like you can see dev tools failed to load or anything, whether when we will see like I have created something in my HTML file, I have written some scripting, but it's not working. Then in that case, I go and inspect and see the console key. Okay, this JavaScript file didn't run. And this is how in case of when you want to see something which you have console logged, in case of debugging, we use a browser console window. Okay, because elsewise we have a text editor. If not a text, like obviously if you have a notepad, in notepad you write your JavaScript, you save it as .js, and you create an HTML, you save it as HTML, and you embed the JavaScript in the HTML. Okay, and then you run your HTML. There you will see the JavaScript which will not be changed whether you load it, reload it, or anything. Okay, but here if I'll write something, but it will be changed when I refresh it, because obviously this was the page which was loaded earlier. Okay, so that's how we run in browser. We only run JavaScript, or we see this console when we want to debug anything. What is debugging? Debugging is something finding error and solving them. Okay, what's you will see what's going wrong and what's not. Okay. So that's how we do. I hope that is clear. Okay, so we were on DOM manipulation. What is DOM? DOM is basically a document object model. What is the document? What is the document? In our case, what we are working upon? We are working on a website. What is our website made of? HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But in browser, what is loaded? What is loaded first? What is the first thing which provides the structures? HTML. So our document is HTML. Okay. In document object model, this is the document object model on your right side. Okay, this is our HTML document, and this is our document object model of this current file, this current HTML file. The first thing is HTML, head, title, this thing. This is visible to us how, but how does a browser sees a HTML file? It sees it's a document. The first thing which a browser sees, this file is a document. Now then it sees, okay, it is of HTML type. And what tags are there in the HTML? Inside the HTML, we have two tags, head and body. Okay, head and body. What is there in head? Okay, in head we have a title, and if you want to embed script, that also we can embed. Okay, so in head currently we have title, and in title, what is the text? My HTML document. Okay, and then in body, this thing is there, this thing. So this is the document object model, and its manipulation. Manipulation is changing it. Can I change HTML using JavaScript? Yes. By using what? By using DOM. By using DOM, by accessing the DOM and changing the stuff in the HTML. Okay. By using JavaScript, I can change anything of my HTML file. Okay. I can I can add or remove CSS using my JavaScript. So JavaScript is so powerful. I can if I have a blank HTML file, no, I can create a whole website using JavaScript. I can create a whole website by having a blank HTML file, but obviously the JavaScript file should be embedded in the HTML. Okay, if I have an HTML file, the whole structure is done, means head, body, and embedding of JavaScript file, that is done, and a CSS file is also embedded. So then if you have, means by that I mean if you nothing have in body, not any tag, h1, h2, anything, I can add that h1, h2, p, table, rows, anything, any div, color, anything you want, you can do it with JavaScript. How? Because JavaScript access this document, access the HTML document, and manipulate the things which are in there. Okay, so the document object model is a specification that determines a mapping between programming language objects and the elements of HTML document. By using the objects of JavaScript, can I access the elements of HTML? Okay, the interconnection between the object, as I told you, key value pair. By can I do that? Can I use the programming language here? What we have a programming language? We have our programming language as JavaScript. So JavaScript objects to be used to connect with the HTML document elements. Okay, whether a paragraph tag is created to change the content of the paragraph tag, that also I can do. Okay, so this is the DOM. So okay, in this we have some objects, right? DOM manipulation. Document object model has certain objects, as you can see, mapping between programming language objects. So there are some objects which are provided by JavaScript to us. By using them, I can change this HTML document. The most important, or the one which we'll be using in our project, will be of this type. Okay, will be of document. So this is our object document. This object we will use. The document object represents an HTML document and can be used to access all documents on a page. Okay, what is document? Document dot this. Okay, what is a document in our case? A document is HTML. I can access the whole HTML using this object. If I want to access this, I can access it using this, right? Using a document. A document contains several collections, anchor, forms, images. Now I have the file. I have accessed the HTML file. Inside that HTML file, I have accessed its anchor tag, forms, images, anything which is present in that document. Now I have the access to it. If I access the HTML using my document object, then I have all rights to access the elements in that HTML. Anchor tag, forms, images, links, buttons, colors, anything. And they have several properties like body, cookies, cookie policy, which you go on any site and accept it without seeing. So okay, so those cookies, domains, last modified, referrer, title, URL. I can access anything of that object and I can change it using JavaScript. And that's what gives the logic to the things, right? And JavaScript has several useful methods. What are methods? Methods are basically functions, but inside an object. Okay, so these methods are basically functions. Get element by ID, get element by name, get element by tag name, write in, open, close. Okay, so these are the methods. If I write document dot get element by ID, by that I can access any ID which I'll provide with this which I provide in this method, and I can access that element using that ID. The name symbolizes get element, get that element whose ID is this. Okay, before this we will see DOM manipulation, okay, because it is an important topic. Here I have a paragraph, and this is a paragraph. Okay, cool, no issues with this. Where, okay, variable I created, and I'll store the value, or basically paragraph name I created of my variable. And using this document dot get element by ID, whether if I give it an ID is unique. We all know ID is all unique, and ID is ASDF, whatever, or ABCD, whatever you want to give, or a P only, paragraph only, no matter what. Document dot get element by ID. This ID का नाम paragraph है. The element which has an ID of paragraph. Access that thing. Now what this variable paragraph has, this variable paragraph has this whole paragraph accessed. Now if I will console here, if I will console.log paragraph, this one or like to remove the confusion here, name this id as p only, so that you will be able to understand it more. The things which we are printing here is this variable, okay? And what is the value inside this variable? The value inside this variable is this. I have accessed this whole document. This document doc type html was there, no? This is a document type of this document, which is of html type. I have accessed this whole document. I have now whole access to this whole document by using this document object, okay? By using this, now I'll manipulate it. I'll get an element in this document whose id was p. Now I have accessed this paragraph thing. Now let's see what this console.log will be there. Okay, just a second. So let's see what will be there here. Is it the same? Okay, so I have refreshed it. Now you can see I have console log here, p id is equals to p. This is a paragraph, right? And see, this is the paragraph which was coming here. And in console, as you can see, I have accessed this p. I have accessed this piece, this paragraph tag, and now I can do anything with it. I have stored it in a variable. Now I can do anything with it. Okay, what to do? I want to do paragraph dot style dot what to do, a line item or something like style dot bold, font weight or anything we can do. We can create background as black. Okay, this is a type error, paragraph style. Obviously, I can't access it like this. Okay, this is the paragraph which I created right now. Now I have the whole access to it. By using this variable, I can access it anywhere and I can manipulate the values of this like this. Okay, paragraph dot append child hello world. But I need to access its text. See, append child is to be done using var text inside paragraph. So create text object. Okay, so text inside paragraph, I'll get it as document dot get element by, or I have the paragraph now right now. So paragraph dot value. Now inside it, I can text inside paragraph dot append child hello world. I got this error certainly. So right now, when we have a paragraph and when we have accessed this document using get element by id p, so that's all we can do. And let's try to create something. Okay, we'll create something. Where let's create an h1. is equals to document. In this document, I'll create element. I'll create element h1. Okay. So if I'll console.log h1, what do you think I'll get? I'll get an h1 tag. I'll get an h1 tag. You'll see in console I got this h1 tag, right? And if I do like text of h1 is equals to document dot create text node. Hello, I am a text inside h1. Okay, and then I'll console.log text of h1. Okay, so in the what I have done here, I have the script. I have created a p tag in the HTML. Okay, I have accessed the paragraph. Now if I want to add anything on the HTML, as I have told you, I can create this whole paragraph. I can create this whole paragraph just using this. Okay, I can create the whole HTML document by using JavaScript. So here what I have done is I have created an h1. This is document. I have accessed the whole document. Okay, then created an element using create element method. Okay, which what kind of element I have created? I have created an h1, which is a heading 1, which is the largest text on the website. Okay, so h1 tag I created using JavaScript. The h1 was not present in the here, but it will be present. It will be accessed with the JavaScript. Okay, now I don't want an empty h1 tag, right? I want a text into it. So I have created a text of h1, which is currently like this. Create text node. By using create text node, we create a text. Okay, we access the text, and obviously that has our text into it. And then if you will console log h1, it will still print this h1 tag. It will still print this h1 tag, and this will print this hello I am inside h1. Okay, so refresh it. See, h1 I got, and I got this string hello I am a text inside h1. Okay, now I want to add this text into this h1. I don't want them to be separated. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll take this h1, I'll use this append child method. I'll use this append child method and add text of h1 inside it. Now I'll store this value here. I'll create a complete h1. This is my complete h1. This was my h1 tag. This was my h1 text. This is my complete h1. Now let's try to console complete h1. Okay, so complete h1. So this thing will be there. I'll get this whole h1 with the text now. See, now that h1 is removed. Now I have this hello I am a text inside h1. Now this is within the h1 tag, h1 dot append child text of h1. So I have this h1 here. So that's how I manipulate the DOM using my JavaScript. Okay, so that's how we do. Any questions till now? Okay, how can I turn an HTML page into a URL link? Okay, URL link, by that you mean you want it as on any website like that, to create your own website. Okay, Sanskar Satish, you can unmute and tell what is not understandable. Or you can write it down in the chat itself. No doubt, sir. Okay, okay. Now I have this doubt which is asking how can I turn an HTML page into a URL link? If you want to, if you have your HTML file, then you need to host it. Okay, buddy. So you need to host that HTML file. You need to host that HTML plus CSS plus JavaScript file, or you have to host your website on a hosting server. Okay, on a server, and you have to have a domain. With it, you attach the domain with your hosting, and then you will have the URL. Okay, this is running locally. You can see the URL right now. It is a file which is running in my browser. Okay, a file which is of HTML type. This is not a file which is hosted globally. Only I have this, like it is there in my, this is the path of the file. C user this desktop JS workshop concept.html. This is the file which is okay. I have so yeah, to create the URL, you need to host it on a server. Okay, which are like GoDaddy, Netlify. Netlify is free if you want to host your HTML site, and it will give you a domain, free domain also, which is .netlify.com. Okay, so that's all about it. Now I think we are ready to start with our project. Okay, or we can just be going less with time. I'll just show it here only. It's just nothing. Just you know what time it is. It is project time. Okay, so let's open our VS Code or our code editors, which was in my case already open. So we will see from start how to create a project. This is my folder where I want to create everything. Okay, I'll create a folder. I'll create this folder with the name of JavaScript project. Okay, so that's how I name my folder. Then inside it, I'll whether I should create or okay. When your site is big, no, so then you keep JS file separate, CSS file separate, and your index.html separate. Okay, but there was no need to separate the folder right now because our project is small only. But okay, let's, for the convenience, let's do it. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to open this JavaScript project folder in my code editor. Right click. If you are using VS Code, you will see it here, open with code, or you can go here, go on file, open folder, in workshop, in JS workshop. This is my folder, JavaScript project. Select this folder. Okay, so this is my new tab which will be opened. Currently it has no file, so I'll create a file. The first file which I'll create is of HTML type. Okay, before writing anything, I'll just save it as index.html, then save it. Okay, so here I will write it as HTML5. Okay, so here is my HTML. Okay, done. One thing is done. Now second thing is I need to create a new file. I need to save it in JS. I need to create my JS file. I'll create it as index.js. You can name it anything, there is no need, but for convention we use index or app.js. Okay, app.js, this is the extension we use. So this is my file, as you can see, saved as this is saved as HTML. I'll create a new file and I'll save it in the CSS folder. I'll save it as style. This is my style.css. Okay, so I think this is done. My file structure is done. Now I need to, the first thing I'll do is I'll embed my JavaScript and CSS file here. To embed CSS file, I need to give here, go on CSS folder, style.css. Okay, then to add my script, or basically my JS file, I'll go / in my JS folder, app.js. Okay, done. Okay, so now what I need to do, what projects we are creating, as you must have got a sneak peek here. This is the project we are creating, to-do list. Okay, I'll add any task here. I'll add key. I need to complete my homework. Okay, this is a task. I'll add this task. See, it is visible here. I need to complete this homework. This is the to-do which I have created. Okay, then after that I have to go to the gym. Okay, this is my second task which I'll add. If this task is done, I'll just cross it and it will be removed. I'll just cross it, it will be removed. If I want to add another task, I'll add it from here. Anything, how much long, whichever long, whatever long I want. And this, if my task is done, I'll just remove it. Simple sorted task. But see, I can get this structure using HTML. I can get this whole color using this. But can I get this? Okay, I'll write an input. But when I click on button, this is the button event. When I click on button, add whatever was written in this input into this and remove it from the input box. Add it here with a cross button. And when this cross button is clicked, remove that thing. This is the functionality which I was talking about. This was the logic which I was talking about. Okay, I can get this color and structure using HTML, but I can't get this click functionality. Add it here, show it here, and then click on cross, then that thing is gone, completely gone. Okay, so that whole thing we will create now. Okay, starting with our HTML, we have style sheet. I'll copy of the previous one, because style, like using style, creating all style by right now will consume a lot of time. I'll tell you what's going on in the style sheet definitely, but for now we'll start with our HTML file. Okay, in body, it's a very short HTML we will have, because everything we want to do using JavaScript, we don't want anything using HTML. We will just have the basic structure with it. Okay, I'll create a div. We all know what is div for. Div is used to do grouping. Okay, I give this an ID, my div, right? Create my div and give it a class of let's say header. Okay, inside this div, I have like every thing will be there inside this div. Okay, means the upper part, the part which you can see here, no, to-do list, this up to this green color, the green color which is ending here, no, this is my header. Okay, this is my div. So I'll create an h1 in it. What is the first thing you see on this? This to-do list GFG HMRITM is written. Okay, so I'll write it. Sorry, I'll write it as, now let's write something else, like to do program or web app. Okay, so I have written it. Then what we will do, the second thing which you can see here is this input field, where I can type anything, right? So this is the field which you, and how to get it using an input tag. Okay, using an input tag we get it. For input we need not, it is not like we don't have a closing tag for input. Okay, inside it only we write it, what are the value we want to give, what are the placeholder we want to give. So input type is my text, obviously it is of my text type. Then I'll give it an ID of let's say my input, right? And I'll give it as a placeholder. What is a placeholder? placeholder is which is written by default. As you can see, something like in gray form, it is written enter your task here. This is the placeholder of the input, right? This is the placeholder of the input, what is written by default. As soon as I'll type something, the placeholder will be go. Okay. So by placeholder, I'll write as enter something. Okay, not a task, you just enter something. No worries with that. We will take anything. Okay, after input work, we will see one thing we have here. What we have? A button, add a task button. So I'll create a button. I'll create a button. The button is created. Okay. So on click, something should happen. What will happen? That we will see. The name of his button is submit. No worries. Let's have this button name as submit. And we want to give some ID or class to it. Let's give it a class of, what should be the name of the class? Add button. Okay, add btn. This is how we give the class. This is our event, guys. Okay, this was the event I was talking about. Something should happen using JavaScript. What should happen? This should happen. On click is my event. When this button will be clicked, the thing which is written in the input should be visible in the website. Okay, so on click, I will add a JavaScript function which is of like I want to add a new element to it. Okay, so this is my on click, this is my class, and this is my name of the button, and this is the button tag ended here. Simple, sorted. This thing is only visible here, nothing else is there, right? Nothing else is there. As you can see, you can go in your inspect also. No JavaScript, nothing is added till now. Okay, in element you will see what's there. Console, I'll go see console is completely empty. Okay, but why it is empty? Because I haven't written anything in my JavaScript file. Okay, so now we will quickly see. We will create our list here with a list which is appearing when I write something. Okay, ul gives us this list, and we will name this list as, we will give it an ID of my ul. No problem with that. I think my unordered list. Inside it will be list items which I'll be adding using JavaScript. Okay, so I think the task here of HTML is done. We will run this file. Okay, let's run our project file, because why not? We have created this file. How this HTML file looks without CSS, without anything. Okay, so we will see that without CSS, without JavaScript, how it will look. From it using Microsoft Edge. Okay, come simple. To do web app, enter something, submit. Nothing will happen here. If I'll add something, then I'll click on submit button. Nothing is happening because I haven't added functionality. This is the HTML without CSS or without JavaScript. Okay, let's add style. Let's take style from our previous thing only. Okay, I need to open it again. This was my CSS file. This was my CSS file. Okay, we will copy this. We will copy this thing. Test.css. This is the styling. Okay, this is the styling, but we can't be writing 80 lines of code, right? We don't have that much time right now, so we will just copy this thing. This is the style which I have given, like body margin should be 0, its minimum width should be this much. The unordered list should have margin padding 0. The list which I'll enter should have this color, that color. Okay, and the close button color should become red when I'll hover over it. Okay, Header should be of green color. It is our new project. Let's create let it be of blue violet. Let's make it of blue violet. Okay, so yeah, header should be of this color. And where is our add button? Okay, go add button. This is the class which we have given to our button. Let make it also, if it is violet, then what color combination will go? I think blue will work. I don't know. Blue will work, or the simple light violet will be there. Okay, this will work, right? So I'll add button hover should be red only. Let's keep it as it. I'll refresh it. See, now it has completely changed from what it was earlier. Okay, it has completely changed. What it was earlier, it was just some text on the left side, but is something aligned. And as you can see, the placeholder is enter something. And here I can enter something, but like on submitting hover is working, my color are done, my H1 is looking good, everything is fine. When I click on submit button, nah, not working. Why? Because color is added, HTML is added. Who will add the JavaScript? It is the workshop about JavaScript, no? And our JavaScript file is empty. So that's not how things work. So here we will start the project of JavaScript. This anyone can create this much. Anyone can create this much easily. Don't want to use CSS, don't use. Just want to use HTML, use that. No worries. Okay, but we have to use some CSS which will give us the cross button, and which will help us in hiding. Like when we when deleting this, when we click on that cross button, no, then that thing got deleted. So for that we need some CSS. Okay, so in app.js we will start writing our JavaScript. What we need to access? Okay, first tell me in chat what we need to access. The first thing what we will access in this JavaScript. Is there something? Write it on chat. What we will access in JavaScript. If I want to work with the HTML thing, what we will access first? Anything? Okay, actually we are less with time, so we will write it quickly. We will access the HTML document, obviously, if you want to edit it. Okay, how we will use? By using our document object. Okay, so we will start with it. Let's create a variable. Let's create a variable name node. Okay, is this node? I'll tell you. Node is any name you keep it. You keep it as elephant, you keep it as apple, banana, whatever you want to keep, because it is a variable name. It doesn't matter. But for convention, we use some variable names which are quite popular or standardized. Okay, so how we will access? We will access using our document object, document dot get element by tag name. Now we want to access it as tag name. Previously I have shown you how to access the element using ID. This time we will be accessing it using a tag name. Okay, we will access the li with our list items, which for now I haven't created, but the list items would be there. Okay, so before that, what I'll do is, as you can see, where the JavaScript should be, when the JavaScript should be invoked, I have embedded it here, but JavaScript is invoked here when it will encounter an event. As I told you, when event happens, when something happens, when we ask for JavaScript, then it runs. If we don't ask for JavaScript, if we don't call any function of JavaScript, then nothing will happen. But here we have called a function. from JavaScript. Please run this function when someone click that button. Okay, so we will now create our button. We'll create our function, basically function button, which is a new element. So how we create function in JavaScript? Function, we write the function keyword, name of the element, name of the function, which is new element. Okay, now anything which we will do inside this function will lead us to the functionality, because that's all which is called in the new which is called in the HTML file when we click on the button. Okay, so what we will have here, we will have where li equals to document dot get element by tag name. Okay, we will have this li. Okay, inside, see, this where node is globally acceptable. This li is just in this scope, in the scope of this function. Okay, if I will console log li here, no, it will give me undefined. But if I'll console log li here, it will give me the value of li, which is there inside it. Okay, so I got the li, but on new element there will be no li. In that case, I need to create first. What will be the first thing which will be done? I have the input when that button will be clicked. So please create this element li. Okay, and then where I'll use a variable. In that I will access the value of input which is provided to me, which is document dot create node. That's how we access the value, right? Now input value from which, from what I need this input value. Where is my input value? My input value is there within this ID, my input. Okay, from here I need to access this value, then I need to create the value using that variable. Okay, so input value I'll get document dot get element. I'll get element by ID. I'll access, I have accessed my input. Okay, now I have access document dot get element by. Now I have accessed this tag. But I haven't accessed the text inside it. How I will access it? I'll access the value inside this. I'll access the value. This is how we access the value of input. Okay, document dot get element by ID, or get element by tag name, you say, get element by class, you say, if you have given class to that tag. Okay, and now input value, this input value has stored the value which was there in the input. Okay, cool, we're good to go. What we need to do, we need to combine the li and the value. So t, let's create it as t. So t is equals to, okay, t is equals to li dot append. We will do, okay, we will do it as li dot append, and then append child actually. So in this we will do, t will have a value of document dot append child. What we will append here? Input value. What is the meaning of append, by the way? Append child. Append child, what it does, it adds a new child after, like if I have a li, if my one list is added, if my one task is added in the to do, then I need to, when I add the another task, it should come below it. If I'll make it as prepend child, then it will come above it. Okay, so but I want to add it below it, so I'll using append child value. Okay, so that is done. Where t is equals to document dot append child input value. Now I have accessed the value. I have accessed the value of this. Now what I need to do? what I need to do with this value. Okay, with this value, first I need to add this value to my li. I want to append the child to this. Okay, now I will check whether this input value, if this input value is equal blank. If the input value is not there, then please or alert, please write something. What is the meaning of this blank thing? Like the user has not written anything, but it is clicking submit. Okay, so we need to take in consideration all the cases. Okay, so alert, please enter something. Okay, but else, if the input has some value, and what you do, you please document dot get element by id. Get element by id, my input will access it, and what value is equals to this. When there are several functionalities which are happening here, as you will be able to see, I am writing something. Okay, I have written something. When I click on this button, there are things happening. As I told you, the first thing which is happening is this thing is added here. Okay, fine, this thing is added here, this complete list is added here. But as you can see, the text which I have written here is removed from this input field also. Now to remove that from input field, for that I have written this. Okay, my work is done now. I have created an li. When this button is clicked, I invoked this, I called this function. What this function did, it created an li for me. It created an li tag for me. Now I have accessed the value which was there in the input by using get element by id my input dot value. Now I have stored the input value in some another variable. Okay, and then I have assigned that value to my li. My li is done. My li is with me. Now I can do whatever I want with it.
Yes, I think we should start wrapping up now.
Sure. We'll wrap it up quickly. Okay, yeah. So alert, we will give alert if it is empty, if the string is empty. Else what we will do is we will empty the string, because our work is done here. We have assigned the text to our li. Our work is all done. So we will empty this thing. Okay, so after that, what we will do, just a second. Our else is done, append child is done, input value is done. Okay, so we will do document dot get element by id my input. Please add something. My input dot value is done. Append child dot append child li, and here I'll remove it. My input dot value empty. If something is written, if something is not written, give an alert, and if something is written, you store that, you store the value, you store append it with li. Okay, document dot get element by id my input that value using that li. Okay, and then empty the input tag. We will create a span. We create a span which is of document dot create text node create element. We'll create an element, a span only. A span is basically a div, a container itself, but it prefers inline functionalities. Okay, now we'll quickly do it. Span, then we will have the text also. What is the text? Document dot create text node, and by that we will have this, which is this slash u00d7 will do. It will create it will have our cross sign. It is made to use the cross sign. Whatever we have now our li element created. What we need is our cross button. Okay, now we are working on the cross button, which will help us deleting the stuff. So span dot, I'll add the class name as close. Okay, then span dot append child as text. I'll add the text to it, but for that I'll add this and to the li. The thing is done. Now I need to have a for loop. Where I is equals to 0, I less than close dot, I less than close dot length, but close is created outside of it. I plus plus, and we will have close. We will access this array, and on click, when we click that cross button, what should happen? Function should be invoked. What that function will do, it will create a div, access its parent element, and then div dot style, dot style dot display. I'll make the display as none. Okay, this I have written very quickly so that it must be understandable also. Okay, so this is the code. This is the code for this code. It's for the cross button. I have created a span, which is a container of that cross button. I have created a text like the cross sign, which I created using this. This is the ID of cross sign. If you will see it, if you will Google it, / this is the multiplication sign, this cross sign. Okay, then I have added this close sign in it. Then I have appended the text in my span. Then I appended that span in my li, because as you can see here, it comes the input value, and along here on the right side, it comes as the cross button. Okay, so I have accessed that, and whenever that close button will be clicked, closed dot I on click, when this would be there, a function will be called, but we need to create this close also. Okay, so here we will reuse our code. Here we will reuse our code, this only. Okay, on close this should happen, but instead of close, node should be there. Okay, so node dot click, node dot span. We have our span also. We'll have our text also. We'll have node dot append child. So inside here we will have our span document.create element.id. We access the span. We created the cross element. Okay, and then we had our span.class name, which is close, span.append child text, and then we have li. Instead of this li, I'll put as node, because this li element, the first li append child, I'll add the span, and then after adding the span, this will be closed. Okay, this here will be closed. This function was this, and this was my upper function. Now I need to create a global variable close, which will have document dot get element by id, get element by class name, close, then run a for loop I less than close dot length. What this close dot length gives, it gives the length of the variable. Okay, and then we have I plus plus, and in it we will have just close this one right here will come inside this for loop. Okay, so this should do our job. Close dot length, close dot length, close dot on click. Yeah, so I think our JavaScript should work. Let's see whether we get some error or not. Okay, something submit. Okay, submit button is not working. Okay, so in index.html we have new element as the name. New element function which we created. Okay, this is the function which is .li as the li. Okay, cool. My table input is given, button on click is done, ul is done, id my ul is also given. Okay, cool. App.js, we have created the function, then we have accessed the li, then we have accessed the input elements by using my input. I hope it is as my input. Access it by id, value, then put the value in it. li.append child is done. Okay, so I think this should work. It is coming but of different color. Like if I submit it, the prompt is not showing up. Create function dot app.js. I have embedded it. Script.app.js is there with us, and here we have a new element in which we created the li document dot create element li, input value document dot create element by value, then t, which is document dot append child input value, and then li dot append child t, and then if the value input is null, if the value input is null, then please do this thing, show an alert to us. Else is document dot get element dot id, access that my input with the ul thing, my ul, and then append that child. Okay, so then we have done document dot get element by id, my input which we have accessed again, and put the value as blank in here. Okay, so in the span what we did is document dot create element span, and we have done d7 which we created as this. We have created an close button, so we will save it. Should work. Okay, expect. There is an error which you can see in the console, which is failed to execute append child on node. Parameter 1 is not of type node. Okay, this is the error in 1.19.55. Now we know what is the error. Here we have the error in the 19th line. It says For close dot length, we need to revisit our this JavaScript code. From starting, we have node.document.getElement by tag name. We have accessed the li for variable I is equals to this. We have created the node. We had this, then we created the span. We accessed the span. We created the text. We created the class name with close. We have appended the child text here, right? We have appended the span. Then we accessed the node. Then we created the variable close. Then document.getElement by close. On click function, we created this dot parent element. Okay, div.style.display none, and this is for this. This is of this on click. All right. Function new element. We have appended a wrong child. It says document.append child input values this. For variable this parent element div.style li.append child. Okay, li.append child. li.append child span.class name span.append child text. Span we created, append we created. For variable I we created it as this. We have already declared close.length. On click. Everything looks fine. If it still shows an error. Okay, here the error is that we have created a variable name with node. We have created the variable name with node. We have accessed the element by tag name. But when we are appending it, when we are adding something with it, it is throwing us an error. So the code line, the error in this is right here. Okay. So we need to look at here new element. When we are adding a new element, this thing is there. All right. Input value. Then we are appending the li only. Append the child and just append are two different things. Here we have done append child. Here we have done get element by id append child. Here we have done append t variable t lit append. Variable of node type. Span append child text. Node append child span. Okay, parent element we created. Have we not created anything on this side? Style.css. Okay. Okay, so here we access the node. Here we have done it. Node.length I++. Here we have accessed the new element. We have closed, we have clicked, we have style.display. We have appended the child. We have appended here li. We have created the input value also as this. So this was our app.js. Input value dot value. Document.append child. Create text node. Here we need, this was the error. we need to create the text node here. Then we are assigning it at below. This error should be removed by now. I'll type something. I'll submit. It appears at here, and then when I cross it, it's working. Okay, so the error which was there was like we were accessing the value, but we were not creating the text node for it. As you have seen, like we have to create the text node, then we need to append it in any element, then we need to append it in text element, right? So using this index.html, we have created all this, and in this, when we called new element, we have accessed the li first. We have created the li first. Then we accessed the input value which was there with us. Then we created the text which was there in it, and we have assigned the value t to it. Then we connected li with t. Append child, wherever you will see append child, that is where the connection is being done. Okay, so this was of text type, this was of text type, they are assigned. Okay, I have assigned the text to li. Then if input value was null, then some prompt will appear. Okay, let's see whether a prompt appears or not. It appears. This page says please enter something, because I haven't entered something and I have clicked the button. Okay, so if input value was this, else this document.get element by id my input dot value, and this is the close button. This is the functionality of close button here. Okay, where span, first I created this. First I created when I add this. This is the span which contains the closing tag. Okay, so yeah, when I add any other thing, it will come down here. When I hover over it, this is the effect with CSS, and when I close it, the things will get display none. This thing is making them go none. Putting it in a div and then doing div.style.display none, you just get removed from it. Okay, so that's all from the project. The source code will be shared, and this was it about the project. Yeah, so that's how we created our to-do web app. We have done with the HTML, we have done it with CSS, and then we added the JavaScript to it. Okay, so we need to wrap up because the time is way too much. It's 2. It should be ended at 1. No worries. Okay, so yeah, I'll provide you the resources with it, like from where you can complete your JavaScript and study further about it and do various questions regarding it.
Thank you, Yash, for the amazing session. I hope everyone gained a lot of new knowledge, and you explained it really well. And we have put the link for the feedback form in the chat. Guys, please fill the feedback form. We will use it to distribute the certificate. So it's very important that you fill this feedback form. Just check the link in the chat box.
And you all will receive the certificate within this week. And for the resources and GitHub link, you can also refer to our website. Like the website will be updated with the each event resources and the GitHub live project link as well. So yes, that would be updated, right?
Sure.
Okay. If you want, you can put these links in the chat box as well.
That only.
Yeah.
If you guys have any doubt, that also you may ask. Okay, this is the first link which I provided is of a cheat sheet which you will see. This is the cheat sheet where you will get introduced to JavaScript very nicely. In this, it is described very nicely, like what types of things are there, what is the basic vocabulary, what is a variable, what is an operator. Okay, and everything from starting with the functions, variables, object, DOM manipulation, everything is there with this link. Okay, you can click on that link, you will redirect it to a website, and from there you may have your you may download your cheat sheet. And this is the free code camp link, which have around 300 questions. You may
Recording
practice them.
stopped.
You may practice them, and then yeah, it will be done. Okay, so this is the link for the questions. And guys, please fill the feedback form.
Guys, we'll be ending this meeting in 5 minutes, so please just go through the links. And please especially fill the feedback form. And thank you to everyone who joined the session today. And we have also put the live stream of this session on our YouTube channel, which will be uploaded once this meeting stops. So if anybody wants to revisit the meeting, they can watch it on our YouTube channel. We have live streamed the whole workshop.